ADHD and anxiety overlap about 50% of the time. And what that means is if your kid has ADHD, 50% chance they're going to have anxiety. And that could be general anxiety. It could be social phobia or social anxiety. So there are different kind of varieties of anxiety. You can have primary anxiety, which means you inherited the genes for anxiety at the same time you inherited the genes for ADHD. And then you can have secondary anxiety. And what happens with that is that you're a pretty happy kid, getting along well at school, but then you start getting in trouble for talking out in class, or you get in trouble for talking to your neighbors, when you're supposed to be doing an assignment. So you start what's called self-monitoring to make sure that you don't do things like interrupt or speak out of turn. And so you kind of shut down. So that turns into social anxiety, and that can follow people all through their even adult years. I have worked with people that were pretty happy, gregarious kids, and when they got to be adults, they kind of turned that self-monitoring on too much. Because when you have ADHD, it's hard to do things in moderation. You do things 0 or 150%. So when you have the primary anxiety, you usually treat both the anxiety and ADHD at the same time because both are quite genetic or heritable. When you have secondary anxiety, sometimes when you treat the ADHD, the anxiety gets better. It can be kind of tricky to figure out what's ADHD and what's anxiety, and one of the first things I do is ask about family history. I want to know if either parent had anxiety or ADHD, grandparents even. I want to know about siblings. One of the other things I look at is sleep. Now, sleep is disturbed when you have ADHD, but it's also disturbed when you have anxiety. It just has a different kind of flavor to it. So when you have anxiety and sleep issues, you tend to have more initial insomnia, which is the getting to sleep part. You also have kids that do a lot of what if questions, like what if I'm late for school? A lot of concerns about punctuality with anxiety you don't usually see with ADHD. Are we taking a different route to school? Why are we going a different route to school? What's happening? Kids with ADHD and anxiety respond really well to positive reinforcement. So it's really important that we use that technique, whether you tell your kid good job or you do a reward system, just to let your kid know that they're on the right track. Kids with ADHD tend to respond even better to positive reinforcement than kids without ADHD, so take advantage of that.